Hello, everyone. Robert Yazbek here with Team Yazbek at Coldwell Banker. Excited to have Eddie Konold with us today. Eddie, how are you?
I'm doing well. Robert. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining me. Eddie is a
Good
local
deal.
psychotherapist and marriage counselor. He is a thought leader, spiritual advisor, a great friend of mine, and a huge asset to the Steamboat Springs community. He's uniquely qualified with mindset and skill set to guide people through these troubling times. Eddie, thanks so much for joining me. You're kind of on the front lines, in my opinion. I'm sure you're really, hearing and seeing a lot of what's going on and how it's affecting people. So I'm really excited to get your
For sure. Thank you. Yeah, it's a crazy time.
No question. No question.
Big time.
So let's start with you and your family, man. How is this affecting you guys?
We're pretty fortunate. I'm still working, which is good. I've slowed down a little bit, so it's a little different than it was. And now, but I feel busier, really having to kind of cram in homeschooling and all that stuff. So it's interesting that transition was a little stressful for us. For me being used to having just my work to focus on and with a little bit of parenting support. I went from kind of like real cruisy to like, oh my gosh, I'm busy.
Yeah.
But, I'm regularly counting my blessings, when I get stressed about how things are going and how this change might play out. It's easy for me to kind of like take some breaths and remind myself, hey, right now we're still eating tasty food. We're still hanging out together. We're getting all our bills paid. It hasn't really beaten us down that much, so much as really provided us with a fantastic amount of time to be together, the four of us. So, in some ways it's been really nice.
That's awesome, man. That's huge.
Yeah. It's big.
So what are you doing to pivot and adapt to maintain a healthy mindset and schedule and professionally and personally?
The big thing professionally is I'm, transitioning from, and not strongly, but, my private practice is still in swing. So I'm still doing that as a dominant force, but, I'm looking to offer, kind of my skill set as a counselor and my outlook on what healthy relationships look like to the general public. I'm doing some more online and social media conversations. And I want to kind of get like the bulk of my content into a group of YouTube videos or some video format where people can just access them for free. So, I'm kind of feel like to take the opportunity to give back since I do have a little bit extra downtime. But, fortunately my practice is still kind of moving. It's just, it looks more like this than, what it usually does, which is when we get to sit down face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And personally, I mean, how, I know it sounds like you're doing well, but I know there's challenges too, right? How do you
For sure
keep the healthy mindset, positive mindset?
I alluded to that earlier, and for me, it's really about representing myself to what's already working, what I'm grateful for. For me, one of the big distinctions that keeps our mindset healthy is this idea of choice. And, none of us really chose to have this epidemic come up and, totally left turn our lifestyles. And so it's easy not to feel a choice. But, when I find myself worrying and stressing out, like, oh my God, how's this going to look? And what if all of my investments just like totally fall in a black hole and never come back? Mm-hmm. Right. I go there sometimes. And so, when I catch myself freaking out, I try to kind of remind myself, you know what, Eddie, you're fine. You don't have to, you're okay today. Actually, you're freaking out, but your life doesn't really look that different,
Right. Yeah.
And it really doesn't. I'm still hanging out with my kids. Katie made some delicious elk stew the other night, and, I'm sitting down enjoying like food that I'd normally eat anyway.
Yeah.
And, and I get to like go take the dog for a hike or something like that. So it's interesting, when I find myself confronted by that, like doomsday thinking, I remind myself, I have a lot to be grateful for. My life doesn't look too different, but where that idea of choice comes in, I would choose my problems all day. Like the things that I'm currently stressed about,
Yeah.
sign me up, right? There are far worse things to have going on in life.
Yeah.
And when I can kind of tap into that, it really impacts my my experience of life. It makes I kind of regain my center. I'm happier again. I feel good inside. That angst kind of goes away. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg with that idea of choice. There's a whole other way of relating to kind of every aspect of your life. Like you're choosing it in the sense that if you're not doing anything about changing it, you're still choosing it today,
Right.
So I try to remind myself that if I have some problem that I'm complaining about, if I'm not willing to like get to work on making it different, then I'm still choosing to have it,
Yeah.
and that leaves me feeling empowered instead of kind of victimized by the things that aren't working as well as I'd like them to.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, the what you said about you take your problems anytime, that's a good segue into the next question, which is a little more serious, I think. What are the biggest challenges to everyone's mental and emotional health right now? The people that are struggling.
Yeah,
kind of.
that's a good question.
All of us, right?
Big time, right?
Yeah.
I think with such a global problem that we're up against, a dilemma, a force that we don't really have a lot of power to control right now, which is interesting, right? At some point we do, right? We could all really try to isolate ourselves, but we have to confront how much infrastructure we think we can live without. And the truth is that really varies for a lot of us. For me, it's easy to say like we could really lock it down, but I'm also kind of like a middle-aged dude with healthy young kids, and I could probably stay isolated for a lot longer than a lot of the population. So, I think the two biggest things that we have kind of working against our mental well-being is a sense of helplessness. This thing is kind of just like impacting everybody's lives so swiftly and so forcefully. And, we didn't really have time to kind of like regroup or gather and brainstorm before all of the sudden we were like all on lockdown. Right. And some of us lost our jobs and some of us are dying. Like there's a lot of big stuff happening. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think helplessness is a really big one. And
yeah,
we generally don't cope well with helplessness. The other one that I think is equally big is uncertainty. We don't know how this is going to play out. We don't know to what extent it's going to impact us personally in our communities, and kind of like if and how life is going to return to normal. What's the new normal going to look like? Are we going to ever touch the normal of like early March or late February for whoever that was,
Yeah.
So, I think those are the two big forces that are kind of our mental health is struggling with.
Yep. That's, I agree. Yeah. Helplessness and uncertainty. That makes a ton of sense. Those
and we don't do well with either one of those.
Two big things. Yeah. Two massive things. So, as a psychotherapist and a marriage counselor, what do you have? What advice do you have for people to stay positive and combat those two things, those two massive things?
The first piece of advice that I would give everybody is connected to helplessness. There's just a lot of things we don't have a choice about, and focusing on whether or not it's fair or just or how things ought to be is kind of a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It keeps that intensity of the helplessness alive. One thing that really helps with helplessness is kind of choosing to surrender, not like a passive surrender, but an active, empowered surrender. You know what? Nobody knocked on my door and asked my permission for this thing to show up. So I am going to take a deep breath. Since it's here, I'm going to allow it in, and I'm going to make some room to work with it, right? I don't really love this experience. I think it's going to hurt a lot of people. It already is. However, it's here. So let's give it some permission to exist. So that's kind of a big idea for me, is giving things permission to exist.
Right.
Otherwise I would resist, right? I don't like feeling this way, but since I'm feeling this way now, I'm going to give it permission. So I don't like feeling helpless, but I'm kind of helpless in the face of this. So I'm going to choose to surrender to it and be open to what it's here to teach me. That would be my kind of first way of relating to helplessness that I think is really powerful.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's huge.
yeah, it is. And it's kind of easy to talk about, like, you know, let it go and be in the present with it. But, you know, this is different. It's like active surrender is, you know, is like an empowered way of saying, like, I am here and I am willing to swim in this uncomfortable water. I don't like it, but since we're already in it anyway, I'm going to stop resisting it, and I'm going to accept it and start to work with it the best I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the
awesome.
uncertainty, thank you. The uncertainty is kind of, I think, a little trickier because we can kind of bounce around, and you know, we have so many wild fantasies about how things are going to go. And it's kind of connected to the surrender a little bit. But one of the things that I've found myself saying to myself for at least 20 years to kind of help myself through painful situations or uncertainty is, all is as it should be. You know, I just have this kind of little mantra that I use in my head, which is like, I'm communicating to myself, everything is just the way it's supposed to be. And that helps me give it permission to exist again, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let it be the way it is. And it's not for me to know what things should look like, or sometimes even, you know, the right move. I don't always know the right move, right? But I'm going to try to have faith in myself, have faith in humanity. One thing that I'd like to add that's not necessarily connected, but I really like it, and I think it helps my mental well-being, so I'm going to throw it in there, is I think people are good. I think people are inherently good. And I think it's really important to relate to people that way for a couple reasons. The two big ones are, one, my experience inside is better. My internal experience is more positive when I relate to people as being good. And in some ways, the coronavirus, I think, really challenges that, you know, because now we even walk around our sweet little town and we see strangers as a little bit of a threat, you know, where we usually don't.
Yeah.
It's like, cover up, keep your distance, right? You know, it's like, who knows who's got what. And so that kind of threatens that. And so, you know, one thing we can do to combat that is just be friendly to people, you know, say hi, smile, you know, you can smile with your eyes.
That's right.
You know, wave, be positive. But seeing the good in people is, it's a much more positive experience than relating to people as though they're out to get me or that I can't trust people. The other reason is kind of the outward experience of, you know, we're giving other people the benefit of the doubt. We're relating to people through their inner goodness or their highest selves, I would say, is another way to say that. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of set other people up to win and feel good, and you create more positivity out in the community, which we can't really measure the size of that ripple. Science is starting to be able to say there is a measurable ripple, and it doesn't obey all the laws of time and space that we think limit the transmission. So I think that's kind of cool, you know. Like interesting. So I think the world could use a lot of positivity right now. I think our bodies heal better and faster, and we're more resilient. Yeah. So, you know, I think there's a big piece to seeing the good in humans. It really is. That's a big thing for me. Yep. It's just remembering that we're all good. Even the ones that are acting horribly, right? There's some very poorly behaved human beings, and sometimes I'm one of them. But, you know, remembering that we're all inherently good, and we all have this kind of genuine place to come from a good place. You know, have you ever met a baby that you look at and you're like, that's an evil kid? No, right? Like they're all delicious and fantastic, right? Yeah. So, you know, I think kind of trying to remember that is really healthy for us.
That's great. And has a positive effect on, you know, not only that person, but yourself and, you know, all of humanity at that point, right?
Right. That's great. That's why wouldn't we choose to, like, fill up the bucket, you know, fill up our own and fill up everybody else's.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. So last question, what can people do to help their community and loved ones right now? You've already given some great ideas, but.
Right. I was going to say, as that therapist, like that would be my first one, is like, be nice to each other.
Yeah. Be nice to each other. Yeah.
You know, I would keep looking for opportunities to contribute to each other. the one thing I love about Steamboat is our rally to contribute. You know, there's so many givers in this town. And so, you know, keep embracing your gifts, whatever they are, whether that's making stuff or organizing people to get people fed, or, you know, taking care of each other's mental health, whatever you do that works, you know, keep doing the things that contribute to everybody's positivity would be the primary one. Even if that's like a drive-by birthday song. I love that that's a new fad, right? We're doing drive-by birthdays. So, you know, I don't think I have any brilliant insight as far as like how to get food to people or to organize money for people. I think that actually is a space that we need to occupy. It's not my strength, and I'm not going to spearhead it. But you know, it's been on my brain. Like, we need to like create a pot, right? That those of us fortunate enough to, you know, be okay and still comfortable can, you know, throw money in, and maybe these stimulus checks can be our like little, like, let's just save that for a rainy day, and we'll, you know, set up a fund for the community who's hurting, or, you know, pay for supplies. So I think, you know, that's not my brainchild. My brainchild is more in relationships. And so I would say, be kind to each other, be positive, take care of each other, go out of your way to spread goodness.
Beautiful, man. I can't think of anything more important than that. So thanks for spearheading that, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a big one for me.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time. That's a ton of valuable information. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. So
great. Well, I really appreciate you having me, and thanks everybody for listening, and go out there and be well.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Be well, stay positive, stay home, and enjoy your loved ones. See you next time.
All right. Love y'all. Bye.